Internal auditing is a key piece of the Star ODA's efforts to continually improve along with meeting regulatory requirements. Auditors need to be qualified and fully trained to provide the best review possible. The objectives of this training include understanding the reason for ODA audits, looking at methods that help provide the best results, as well as discussing the logistics of a self-audit. This training is being provided to meet the requirement called out in the ODA Procedures Manual, Table 8.1. In addition to this module, you'll also need to have watched the videos that provide an overview of the ODA and the Procedures Manual. The requirements to conduct annual self-audits are regulatory in nature, being established in 14 CFR 183.53, paragraph C5. Order 8100.15 goes further in explaining self-audit requirements in paragraph 3-14. These are changing in revision C of the order though, so the ODA process will be updated in the future. In summary, the current expectation is that first, unit members' performance must be evaluated annually for accuracy and sound decision making, including those that are located at different facilities. Also, procedures must be evaluated to ensure that all authorized functions are accomplished by following what's defined in the ODA manual, and that the procedures are adequate. Next, a report is generated at the end of an audit to identify any findings and actions that will be taken. This self-audit must be kept and shared with the FAA. And then finally, in developing corrective actions, Star must perform a root cause analysis to identify the best resolution, as well as establish a timely schedule for completing the tasks. So what is an audit? By definition, an audit is a systematic, independent, and documented process for obtaining evidence and evaluating an organization objectively to determine the extent to which all audit criteria are fulfilled. It's looking for success. It's performed by gathering information through reading, listening, and observing, then comparing the information to the defined requirement, whether it's in the Procedures Manual, Quality System, or FAA published guidance. The final step is drawing conclusions to determine whether the organization is compliant or non-compliant with the requirement. So the purpose of an audit is to provide an independent review to assure an organization that documentation exists showing compliance with the requirements. It verifies the procedures are being followed and identifies deficiencies that may need to be corrected. The organization benefits from an audit by learning where improvements can be made and where opportunities exist that will enhance their performance. For the best audit, starting with the selection of a team of skilled, capable auditors is the best first step. From the ODA Procedures Manual, qualification includes staying within the same technical discipline as the auditor's technical expertise, and having a good working knowledge of the procedures and processes. Further, qualifications to being a skilled, capable auditor include understanding good business practices, the audit requirements, and audit techniques. Most importantly, however, an auditor must possess excellent communication skills. Being an auditor is testing the system. It's important to be able to ask questions in a way that people can respond to their best ability. Good communication skills are necessary to be able to work with people who can show you how their processes work, so they demonstrate what's really happening without getting defensive. So how should you prepare for an audit? As an auditor, first take a look at Order 8100.15 Appendix C for the audit criteria that will be used. This review may also take you to FAA orders, policy, or regulation as well in your preparation. Get a sense of what you need to be looking at to address the elements to be reviewed. Consider looking at previous audit results to help you understand what's been found before and what corrections have been put in place. This may provide thoughts of things to check up on to validate implementation and effectiveness of process changes. Create your own personal audit plan that includes key requirements you want to focus on, specific activities you want to trace, or specific people you want to talk with. It may also be beneficial to generate a schedule or a timeline to help you accomplish the full review. From the order, audits for Star have looked at 8 different areas as spelled out in Appendix C, and they include organization and responsibility, project management, design data approval, conformity inspection and records, testing, airworthiness certification, flight testing, and continued airworthiness. There are two other areas in the order, production approvals and operations certification, that are not applicable to Westar. You'll notice in looking at these areas that they are very project-centric. This is going to be one of those changes in Revision C of the order. Now, what you should look for or think about as you spend your time looking in certain areas is remembering that there are two ways you can focus on something. You can dig a mile deep, but only a foot wide, and you're probably going to find something wrong. But this is auditing to find fault. If you dig a foot deep but a mile wide, you can cover more ground looking for process strengths and weaknesses. This is the type of auditing that's used to find compliance, and the best approach when focusing on the process, not just the details. By approaching an audit with process review in mind, it helps to walk through the steps with someone who can demonstrate things like, where does this process begin? What are the steps that get you from point A to point B? How are items coordinated or documented? What tools are used, and how well do those tools work for the person? How are decisions made along the way? Is it clear when the process is done? Does the process notify anyone if there's any errors made? Are there any alerts or flags or a review process? How is work evaluated along the way to know it was accomplished well? With these types of questions in mind, not only is an auditor able to get a solid understanding of what happens and why, but may also learn of opportunities for improvement. In evaluating the ODA processes, auditors are gathering evidence to answer some general questions. When considering the individual processes, look for where a process says some action will take place. The auditor then looks for tangible, documented records that show that action took place. Then the auditor can ask such questions as, is this effective? Do the processes work well together? Do people follow the processes? And finally, does it actually meet the technical requirements? Are the proper records in place showing the process was followed? Ideally, all the processes are well integrated. For example, unit member selection processes result in a competent individual performing ODA functions. Training material provides a good understanding of what is expected. Projects are coordinated well and result in timely, safe, compliant designs. Reviews discover any unknown issues and they are solved. Everything is intertwined and key to performance, so think of the big picture and how those processes interact. To gather evidence well, most of the times, auditors should ask someone else about how they do their piece of a process to verify compliance. A lot of times, auditors don't use this simple technique. In fact, in many cases, auditors may just review data packages looking for errors or goofs, yet this is a key auditing tool that's critical for learning about the ODA processes and if they're followed. As an auditor, when you're interviewing someone, remember to be professional and friendly. You're imposing on someone and can be an uncomfortable time. Recognize the potential awkwardness and try to create an environment that's conducive to discussion and sharing of information. You're responsible to establish an atmosphere of trust and open communication, not a personal attack. When you're conducting an interview, make sure the person you're talking with is the person responsible for the task that you're reviewing. Don't let someone try to step in and help, but not actually know the process. They'll be guessing and you'll be wasting your time. Listen to what's said by the person you're interviewing and what's not said. The empty space may provide valuable information. Observe practices and watch what someone does so you can see and compare to what you're hearing. Take notes as you go and share them with the person you're interviewing by rephrasing what they say. So if I understand you correctly, when you take this step, you're always going to shut the computer off first. Is that right? This helps you ensure that you captured the correct information. Review records provided during the interview so that the person can explain what is included and validate discrepancies that you may see. Then remember to get copies of any records that may have a non-compliance, as this is evidence needed for the final write-up. When you do discover a discrepancy, it must be written up as a non-compliance. ODA Form WSA ODA F044 is used to document these findings. It's based on the form offered in the ODA order. When documenting a finding, the related audit criteria is the number in the criteria area, like 1-3 or 2-6, that is from the order and should be listed. There may be more than one set of criteria from the order to choose from, but you need to select the one that's most relevant to what you found. Check the safety-related box if there are safety concerns in what you uncovered, and check whether you feel the item is systemic or isolated. If you found more than one instance of the issue, it's systemic. Mark the type of discrepancy, remembering that a regulatory noncompliance is when the ODA hasn't followed the procedures manual. This is the most common type of discrepancy in most ODA audits. The others are defined in Order 8100.15. An airworthiness standard noncompliance is where some data was approved erroneously. This is sometimes hard to differentiate from a technical discrepancy, which is when something is technically incorrect but still compliant with an airworthiness standard. FAA policy noncompliance means the available guidance wasn't used properly, and a procedures manual discrepancy comes from an inadequate process that doesn't meet requirements or is ineffective. A special emphasis item is required to be corrected, but it's usually for items discovered that should be fixed even though they may be compliant. Next, describe what the required condition is. This shouldn't be something that you think is a good idea or the way we always do it. The required condition should be taken from the manual or order or the guidance material, something that really spells out exactly what is required. Excerpt it directly so that it's extremely clear where the requirement comes from. Then, add the encounter condition of what you saw. Explain exactly how you see the issue so that someone reading it later can understand what the problem is. These forms will be provided to the audit lead. Luckily, as an auditor, you're not responsible for developing the corrective actions for the discrepancies found, though I'm sure Westar would appreciate suggestions if you have any to offer. In fact, a really valuable part of an ODA audit actually comes from that type of feedback or opportunities for improvement. Note anything that is non-compliant or something that should have been a finding but that you see happening that could be done better based on your knowledge and background. That type of sharing can be invaluable. As this video comes to a close, the key points to remember are that in auditing the ODA, you are helping Westar monitor its own performance, documenting compliant processes, and writing up non-compliances. This is a great step toward ensuring the company is able to continually meet their performance objectives.